A man has every right to do anything it takes to protect his family. And what are cops for if not to get out and remind people that they cannot take the law into their own hands? Detectives, Jesus. If we left it up to the dicks, nothing would ever get done because they don't know the streets. They don't know people. Half of their cases would follow paper trails. They're garbage men, glorified desk clerks, more concerned with dreaming up new ways to clock OT than preserving the law and order. And top of that, what am I supposed to do? Hang out at Masonic, sitting with my thumb up and drinking my bad machine coffee like it'll help bring my kid Stewie back from brain damage? So, is Puerto Rican stiff at the Citgo. I walked up to him, very polite. I asked him, "Excuse me, sir, I'd like to ask you a few questions about your whereabouts last evening." And like that, he drops his groceries, lunges for his car, and drives off. My partner, Joey, he's dealing with this and the alleyway incident across the street, so there's no time to call him. I go after this Puerto Rican gentleman. I mean, hey, running like hell from a cop, it's a pretty good persuasive indicator that something ugly's amuck. Following this guy's tail lights, we hit the outer drives. The guy was this close. I'm indicating every which way I can and pull the hell over. And what does he do? Pouring rain, he tries to jump the concrete embankment doing 80, flips his car over 2 or 3 times and lands it upside down on 30 feet below on the S-curve overpass. Sure, I would have called in for backup. Followed protocol to the letter, cut the guy off. But Joey, he's out here on another call. I got 2 hands driving. I mean, I don't want to cause any more accidents or anything. I was in trouble enough already. So the guy died in the wreck. I don't know how the side of my squad car got scraped up, but it definitely was not from knocking the Puerto Rican gentleman off the road in the middle of a high-speed chase down Lakeshore Drive. Dicks can speculate all they like. These things are simply not done. It was this guy's own fault. But I blamed it on the rain. Sole survivor of the altercation. Last man standing. Dicks had to file my story, no matter how many fucking holes they tried to poke through it. The token prick assholes. Afterwards, I swing back to the Citgo, and Joey, he's nowhere to be found. So I ring home to ask Connie if she heard from the deadbeat, because I figured maybe he ding-a-linged her and asked her, has she maybe heard from me? Well, the son of a bitch answers. This doesn't surprise me, but it surprised me. I mean, Joey knows this. I virtually brought the guy back from the dead. He drank so bad. You know a guy's got it bad for the bottle, because when he gets it alone, nothing else matters. You know how many times I covered for that guy, signed in for him, covered his beat. I can't even count. Fucked up Mick was in free fall, tailspin, till I concocted a plan for his salvation. He shaped up, knocked off the sauce completely. It was a good change to see. Good change to count myself part of. But the way things got, it was like he was always fucking there, even when you didn't want him to be there. And sure, he's like my brother. I love the guy, but the son of a bitch can be the biggest pain in the ass sometimes. So I hung up. I know where the rat fuck was. Fine. On my way home, I just thought I'd do some networking, ask a few questions, score up a few leads. I mean, time the dicks crack this one, we'll all be dead. So I ran into Rhonda, talked to her in a bar for an hour or two, bought her a drink, pumped her for a little information. And she says to me, boy, she says, secretary school. Denny, I can't do secretary school. I got a fucking kid to take care of. And I told her, let me do the taking care of. I'm good for the daycare. I'll front you tuition too. She was grateful but skeptical. She appreciated my concern. And I don't know what happened to me. Maybe all the stress lately. I only had like 3 or 4 beers, and it hit me really hard giving her a lift home. So I pulled over into Waveland Park and just, kind of knocked off.
Denny went off the deep end that night. Me and a couple other cops, Varallo and Meese, found him parked on the flooded 9th hole of the Waveland golf course. He said he only had 2 or 3 beers, but it takes more than that to tank Denny a lot more. I found a couple spent vials of morphine and a syringe in a nearby sand trap. When we carried him into the house, into the light, I could tell he'd been with Rhonda again. I could see it in Connie's face that she knew too. Denny's pants were on inside out. Connie told us to put him on the fold-out in the back porch. Casey Chuck Cheese is the only place in the house besides the kitchen that's not shagged. Connie and me sat up most of the night drinking coffee in the kitchen. I called every hour to Masonic to check on Stewie. The same. They told me, same, like the weather report, always the same. Waiting. That's what this summer wasn't about. It was an excruciating exercise in patience. Waiting for Stewie to take a turn for the better. Waiting for things to blow sky high between Denny and me. Waiting for an end to the rain. A lighter air, a brighter sky. Then they caught the psycho guy. This cannibal, worse than anything that anybody had ever seen in the movies. And it turned out the Vietnamese boy, Lee Yao, was one of his victims.
No sooner do the papers, the news, flash this guy's picture than the boards are lit up with 1 million or more calls. Witnesses to the night these 2 dipshit beat cops turned this crying Vietnamese kid over to the cannibal killer. Parts of this kid's body have still not been found. I told Dickerson, I said, just because you and your dicks can't find his heart and liver doesn't necessarily mean it had been eaten. I'd like to meet the reporter who came up with that cannibal tag. It's always assuming the worst with some people. I'd have a serious talk with Ed Yobert, about logic,
Denny thought the dicks had it out for us. There were countless times that he'd interfere with their work, not in a bad way. Out on patrol, Denny turned a clue or two that would actually help them out, help them solve the cases. Then they'd take him to task for it. Not because Denny tried to take the credit, he never did. Mostly because the dicks resented being shown up by some stupid beat cop. When they caught this cannibal killer, instead of piecing together a case, they spent most of the early part of their investigation tying Denny and me to Lee Yao. Going to that length to ID a couple of scapegoats to make sure Dickerson and his rank-file dick squad were out to nail us.
I got kids to raise in this world, and these blousy fucks are gonna hold me responsible for this madman? Where the hell is the logic in that? Without common logic, it's every man for himself and fuck your neighbor as you would expect your neighbor to fuck unto you. Is this civilization or what?
At first, Dickerson suspended us both with pay. A week later, after the press got a hold of it, we were suspended without pay, which whacked our chances for appeal. Our FOP advocates, the guys who helped me and Denny remove the racial slur reprimands from our files, they're all hands off suddenly, like something or somebody got to them. Dickerson offered us a deal. If we admitted breaching protocol by not running Lee Yao in, he promised us reinstatement in a month. Denny didn't want to admit any wrongdoing.
Some asshole takes a pot shot through my front window, just about kills my kid, and they want me to turn in my badge? Turn in my service revolver? The only protection I got? It's the logic, see? The logic is wanting. A beat cop description, they don't demand fucking omniscience. Like, how many paces can you identify a serial killer who eats his victims' hearts? How the hell are we supposed to know?
But I talked him into it. For the kids' sake, for Connie's. We sign this statement, and not 2 days later, the cannibal killer decides to issue a complete, horrifying confession. Press run the whole thing.
Fucking Dickerson reneged on the deal.
Too much pressure from the press. It let me and Denny fry.
The surfer guy said he was the kid's uncle. We believed he was his uncle. Christ, the kid was glomming on to me. I don't know Asian. Kids of my own. Don't you think this eats me up? I still see his face. All the time his face. I walk around, awake, asleep. I still feel his arms around me like it was the last saving grace and I fucking failed him. Ain't that punishment enough?
Denny took it hard. Especially with all the things touch and go with Stewie. Denny definitely did not need this. He collapsed inside. His drinking got worse than ever. I called him on the track marks up and down his arm. He told me mosquito bites.
I see that look on Noel's face, and Connie's face, and Stewie's face when I go to visit him. Looking up at me through all them spaghetti tubes and wires. And all I'm fucking trying to do, like any other man, is take care of my family. Why take away my means to do that? Why? Even my name, my face, all over the news, the papers. Who the fuck's gonna hire me to do shit in this town now? For precisely what purpose am I being crucified over here?
I hated seeing Denny like this. So I got on the horn to any attorney who would talk to me. I asked about mine and Denny's chances fighting this suspension thing in court.
Oh, sure. The shitheel Joey digs up. He tells me just go along with what Dickerson says and I'll make things worse. We'll sue for back pay. We'll sue for damages. Be patient. Wait. But I asked the shyster motherfucker about, what about now? I gotta make a safe, secure home for my family. I got no ambition bigger than that. My kids, my family, my wife. That's who I am. That's all I let anybody hold me responsible for. This shyster tells me, oh, I'm right. What's been done to me and Joey is not fair. We got a good case. We'll win. But winning takes time. Time, I tell him. Right. If this hourly shyster in suspenders and comb over works pro boner.
The attorney me and Denny finally went to see wanted to depose us separately. Take down our stories, standard homicide procedure, see how the facts match up. They didn't, apparently. When me and Denny went to see this guy together, he told us that no matter what our individual stories, facts of the case were 2 cops took the call on this Vietnamese kid and one of you turned him over to the killer. There's unquestionable fault here, he told us. Dereliction of duty, poor judgment, everything that the internal affairs investigation labeled it, our attorney felt was not unwarranted. So I asked him, what are you saying? We don't have a case. And he says, one of you has a case.
But one of you has to take the fall.
I strongly recommend you retain separate attorneys.
Separate attorneys. The shitty shyster tells us. Me and Joey, we're like brothers. He wants to pit us one against the other just to get one of us his job back. Because the world is such an irredeemable shithole. One of our 2 asses has to be nailed out to dry. Where is the logic in this? Because the world is bubbling over with bloodshed because madmen fuck kids and then eat their livers, bury their victims by the droves under their suburban houses, light them on fire, take pot shots at 2-year-olds through their front window. One of us 2 has to be fed to the wolves? Sacrificed for what? For what? Is this some fucking pagan ritual here? Or the United States of America? I am missing the logic here entirely.